So I immediately realized like I don't like the day-to-day management of staff, and especially the HR side. I love working with leaders and management, but I did not like down at the production level working with those team members, and I just wasn't good at it. Then fast forward into systems. I move really quick, and I like to pick up something really fast, and then I do not like to document it and then hand it off to the next guy, right? And so I had to find people that liked documenting things and liked building systems around it that I could work with, because I could figure out the system. I knew exactly what it should be, but then I was terrible at, I'm not a good teacher.
Yeah.
Like I just wasn't a good teacher. And I thought I was. And I'm really good at telling you off the cuff what you should do, but I'm not really good at planning out and building out a system without help. Like I know what needs to be said. So it's like I needed someone by my side to build those out, execute them. And my brother, Stephen, was very good at that. He loved that process. He loved the day-to-day. He loved the details and the systems. And so I could inspire him, give him vision for systems. And then he could actually execute those systems in the day-to-day.
Welcome to the How to Buy or Sell a Business Successfully podcast. The concepts discussed in this podcast are for informational purposes only. No attorney-client relationship is intended or formed by this podcast. No legal advice is intended in the substance of this podcast. Feel free to check out our website, www.goforemanlaw.com. Enjoy the show and welcome your hosts, Jake Wayman and Sam Foreman.
Welcome back to How to Buy and Sell a Business Successfully podcast. My name's Jake Wayman. I'm one of the hosts that Sam decided to keep me on for this long, and I absolutely love it and appreciate that of him. But my wife and I are the proud owners of the Orange Theory Fitness Studios here in Wichita, Kansas. And then I also am a fractional business development executive for Wayman Consulting Group, where I help companies grow their top-line revenue. Something fun that has happened in my life with my kids is two of my little ones, a 4 and 2-year-old, they're in gymnastics right now, and the flips and the climbing that they do, like we are going to have a broken bone. I say probably within the next 6 months, knock on wood, but man, these kids are everywhere. Like I turn around and my daughter is standing on our countertop, just like laughing at me, and she's 2. And so we're in it with these two. They are a splitting image of me and my brothers, which is scary. And so anyways, that's fun in my life. It's just running around with my 2 little kiddos. But I'm joined by my amazing co-host and the founder of this podcast, Sam Foreman.
Well, I'm Sam Foreman, founder of Foreman Law. Our big focus is serving folks that are building businesses and helping them with purchasing or sale of businesses. Our goal is to help folks close their deal with confidence and peace of mind, and we really want to be a part of helping build thriving local communities through the work that we do. One of the best things that's going on in my life right now is getting to work with my wife, Meg. I err towards the side of being overly creative, and I want to do a lot of different things. And God knew that I needed a lot of structure and organization in my life, and that is my wife's superpower.
That is Meg's superpower.
She is exceptionally detailed and organized. It started to rub off on me a little bit, which is good for the world. But she's amazing. And she made this gluten-free donut recipe.
You didn't bring any for us?
I did not, because why would I? I mean, they're too good. I mean, I'm just gonna hoard them at home. So I'm sorry, I will not be posting the recipe in the comments, because let's be honest, I'm gonna forget to do that. So, but we've got an amazing guest today, Samuel McVay, serial entrepreneur, really cool dude. And speaking of creativity, I saw you sweat once, but it was only once, but it was pure creativity. Yeah. Somebody tried to bottle it, but they were a little bit too slow because it had immediately been channeled into an amazing idea. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what's one of the best things in your life right now?
Awesome. Did you work on that like for 2 hours?
No, that was just like on the spot.
Like,
Sam riff's good.
Yeah,
he's good riff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Samuel McVay. I love starting and running and failing in small business, and currently
not at the same time.
Ideally, like separate those out a little bit. Good things in my life right now are I have 4 daughters, and they are all very active in sports, and I'm fairly competitive and am enjoying living vicariously through them right now. So
Cool.
Do you coach any of them?
I coach a little bit, just
Yeah.
starting out.
Yeah.
Got to be real careful with that. That's a balance right
Yeah.
there. How do you be dad and coach?
So I coached my stepson in flag football, and I was literally making plays yesterday, and I was getting excited about like building them out and everything too. Of like, oh man, this is gonna be so good. Yeah, a little too much.
Yeah. No, that's a struggle in those parent-child, organized activities of making sure that I'm putting the children at the center of the interaction and not like, hey, this would be awesome if you would do this for me because that'd make a cool video or a cool photo. And be like, hey, are you having fun? Are you learning things? Are you safe? Maybe you could stop crying right now because it's really ruining the fun that I'm having.
Or you bench your kid more than you should just because the other parents. You just don't want to have to deal with that. Like, I'm just going to play my kid less because I'm the parent.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to complain.
No, that's great. But Samuel, thank you for joining us to kind of talk about some of your experiences as a serial entrepreneur. And we just kind of wanted to learn more about what that process is like for you, and maybe you could talk about how many businesses you have, how many you've kind of moved through over the years, and just a little bit more about that for folks that are listening.
Yeah, I was just talking to Jake before we started this that my wife and I started to count through every product we launched or brand or service-based business that actually had a transaction, and it's 14 since 2012.
Wow, that's awesome.
Which is, terrifying, very reflective. And I'm still a part of 7 that are alive and still in business. So that's kind of where we're at today.
Well, and so talking like 14, now 7, but like, what drives you to keep buying, building, and scaling rather than just kind of focusing on just one?
Yeah. Great question. That was just pretty much an accident to start. Building a cleaning company was the first thing we did, and we grew really fast, a little too fast. That's when I met you. You started helping us with all that, necessary employee handbook. I highly advise investing heavily in systems and documentations for liability reasons. Not a plug for Foreman Law, but it kind of is. But we grew way too fast. My only job was sales. We got to about 43 employees, and I was 25 at the time. I had no idea what I was doing, and just kind of had it down to a system where I'd sell a new contract, go get a loan for, at that time was cleaning contracts. So I'd increase my line of credit because I knew I want to get paid for 60 days. I'd go get a loan on my new auto scrubber, whatever equipment I needed for the account, and just kept repeating that process. And then one day I closed too many accounts, which was a good thing. But not a good thing going into the bank. We did not have 3 full years of tax returns, and the bank said no on the last contract. I was like, well, here's the contract, and they were like, nope, this is you're growing too fast. We're concerned. You have 40 employees, and that was really smart. Like, if I was like, now what I know, that was a good call on their part, because I didn't really have good answers for what they wanted. So I just got stalled. That was my only job. We had managers in place. Like, everything was running well. I enjoyed that process of the passive side of I only had to do what I wanted to do, which was grow the business. And so started exploring options, talking with my brother, and we pursued a gentleman that was probably going to shut down his business, and he had no blue sky. And we pretty much just said, hey, we know how to do this. He was in the appliance service world. And we said, how about you just give us 2/3 of your company, and we'll make sure you have something to sell someday. Because we asked him, like, what are you going to sell? And he's like, I'm just going to hang up my keys, and I'll park the van. I'm like, well, we've done this a few times. I think I could do this. And he was like, okay, let's do it. And we're like, great. And then he's like, oh, hey, there's a retail store that really needs to sell down the street, and they sell appliances. And we're like, oh, let's go talk to him. And we go down the street, talk to him. And again, everybody else is still running good to be clean, but I'm basically out of a job for 6 months. So that's literally how it snowballed. Like, I never thought about getting into other businesses till I couldn't grow the one I was in. Like, that was just the whole genesis.
Well, and I know most of the brands that you've been involved with, and I mean, and I say most of them are average. They're, your run of the mill, nothing really super fancy creative or anything like that. But I mean, like you and your brother, and just knowing you specifically, I mean, you know how to find that hidden potential in something. And it's like talking about appliances, for an example. I know you're in pest control, and it's like, those aren't sexy industries, but like you see hidden potential and you know how to transform them into something special. Kind of, what is that? Maybe not your secret sauce, but like, what do you see when you're looking at a brand that you're getting involved with, or a product or a company you're looking to get into?
I mean, I'd say bed bugs are sexy just because of the profit behind them.
Oh yeah.
So
I know. I mean,
just depends on how you look at it,
Yeah.
Yeah. Great question. I am really, I was poor and I wanted to eat. And, a lot of my people I followed and saw what they were doing, I just never thought I could do anything really big. But I was like, I could get some first base hits. And then once I started seeing like dividends in my mind, like if I saw a company, I'm like, if I could make, $40,000 a year passively and not be involved, like that's, in my mind, that's huge.
Yeah.
I'm like, so if I could just stack up a few of those, like I kind of could control my life and then go into more risky, fun things. And yeah, interesting enough, when I joined, started going to Million Cups, it was just all these really big ideas. And I just felt like the boring guy in the room. Yes, I had a couple companies, but I'm like, yeah, it's not sexy. Like we're cleaning carpet, we're cleaning poo off carpet, we're spraying for bugs, we're fixing broken appliances, right? It's all blue collar, small business stuff that's like scaling that. I didn't even know how to scale those. And we're in Butler County, right? So keep in mind, for everybody listening, like all these are based in El Dorado, Kansas, right? So the market share opportunity we knew pretty quickly. And so same with the appliance store, we really stopped focusing on growth there because we knew the exact market share. Paid for some data. I knew exactly how many appliances were bought in Butler County, and guess how many were bought percentage-wise at Charlie's. 92% of appliances bought in Butler County were at Charlie's. So you're like, all right,
does
well,
Amazon have the other 8%?
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, the other 8% was rent to own places because we were the only one. And we matched big box store pricing. But back to your deal, it was just, I love the idea of these first, second base hits that were passive income. And I wanted to eat, and time was everything to me. And then I just kind of, honestly, just the dopamine effect of building it and it working and me not having to be there, I got addicted to that. Like building something and then I could walk away and it could still function. And that kind of gets into the people part of it. But my mission every time was always around the business partner. I didn't care about cleaning. I didn't care about pest control. I didn't care about appliances, but guess what? I had a business partner at each one of those that was their domain and they were all in. And I got to do the stuff I like to do that they hate to do. And so that was the partnership side of it that was always trial and error. Got it wrong a lot, but yeah, that's why we stack up those first base hits.
Well, and it's like they say this, if you're in professional baseball, and Ryan Beatty says this really, really well. He's like, and if you're a major league player, and you hit 3 out of 10 times, 300, but you're going to be in the Hall of Fame. And it's like, and that's what people don't realize. It's the base hits. And going back to the Moneyball thing, keeping baseball, I mean, like all they cared about was just getting on base. That's all they cared about. Didn't care if you were the slugger, hit home runs, whatever, but you could get on base. If your on base percentage was high, they wanted you on the team. And look what they did with it. So,
what was that line Brad Pitt says in that? Like, does he get on base?
Yep.
All right.
Yep. There you go. Throw it up there. You kind of give me like a Brad Pitt like vibe from that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I could see you that.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. I think my wife would leave me tomorrow for Brad Pitt. So I really appreciate that.
Well, I'm like, speaking of celebrity comparisons, I mean, Brad Pitt, I mean, that's hard to top. I mean, I get Zach Galifianakis. So, Good on you. For the record, I'm nearly certain my wife would not leave me for Zach Galifianakis.
I get Dr. Evil.
Nearly certain.
I'm Dr. Evil.
Although I am sitting between two ferns. Yes, very nice. Yeah.
You are between two ferns.
Oh goodness. No, I love the idea that you've created a partnership, in these successful businesses and how you screen what's a good target is. You needed somebody that had really deep industry experience, subject matter experience, and was going to be able to kind of run the functional side of things, and coupling that with kind of your superpowers that you bring to the table. And so, I mean, you're a really creative guy. How did you identify that, hey, this is what I'm great at, this is what I love to do, and here's how I integrate that with somebody that doesn't love doing those things? What was that process like for you?
So we started Good to Be Clean, and we didn't know what we were doing. We bought a carpet van, and we ruined a lot of carpet. I apologize to everyone whose carpet we cleaned in the first 2 months. We made it right, but we didn't know what we were doing. So we started the opposite of that, right? So immediately I'm like, if I do this again, I don't want to spend 2 years just trying to figure out how to do the thing we sell, right? From day one. So my brother and I had no idea what we were doing. We were high integrity people. Our dad's a pastor. We were raised in home of faith and high character. And so we always made everything right. But we messed up a lot of stuff. And so fast forward, like that was just like a no-brainer. What I figured out about myself is I don't like the direct involvement day to day with the business and managing people. The first time I tried to fire a guy, I fired him. He was working at a contract in Topeka, Kansas, and he shows up to work the next day after I fired him. And says, I'm holding on to this job. I'm not losing this job. I'm fighting for this job. Well, at the time, first of all, it's kind of like a Michael Scott moment where like I killed a deer once, had to finish it off with a shovel. Took about an hour. But yeah, I'm a hunter. So I just let him stay. I'm like, all right. I knew that term was getting over and we probably were going to win it back in about a month. And I'm like, takes a little stress off me. I mean, this is a terrible principle. It's like I'm not setting a good standard. So that's like kind of, that gives you a picture of how well I managed people. So I immediately realized like I don't like the day-to-day management of staff, and especially the HR side. I love working with leaders and management, but I did not like down at the production level working with those team members, and I just wasn't good at it. Then fast forward into systems. I move really quick, and I like to pick up something really fast, and then I do not like to document it and then hand it off to the next guy, right? And so I had to find people that liked documenting things and liked building systems around it that I could work with, because I could figure out the system. I knew exactly what it should be, but then I was terrible at, I'm not a good teacher.
Yeah.
Like I just wasn't a good teacher. And I thought I was. And I'm really good at telling you off the cuff what you should do, but I'm not really good at planning out and building out a system without help. Like I know what needs to be said. So it's like I needed someone by my side to build those out, execute them. And my brother Stephen was very good at that. He loved that process. He loved the day-to-day. He loved the details and the systems. And so I could inspire him, give him vision for systems. And then he could actually execute those systems in the day-to-day.
Jake and Sam here.
Thank you for joining us. If you find this content helpful, please like, subscribe, share it with a friend, and especially leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or iTunes. Really helps us out a lot.
Yeah, 1 star, it's on Sam.
Yeah, it's definitely on me.
Somebody's like, we needed to make an SOP, a standard operating procedure. Like when I hear those words, I cringe. I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I wish everybody wore like signs around them that said, this is what I'm good at, or this is what I do. Nice. And so, because like
you can write an SOP for that.
I mean, you could write an SOP for that. Like that's the thing is like in my family's company, I mean, that's all, it's SOPs all over the place. And I'm like, I'll say something like, oh, we need to make an SOP for that. And I'm like, why? But I understand the reason behind it of why doing it, but it's not
and then you need to update them.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
Well, you put somebody in charge of that, and then their title is the SOP.
Yeah. Well, kind of going back into the partnership conversation, you know, like so you realize that you need to start getting into business with partners that have a deep knowledge in something, or like, you know, they love pest control, they love appliances or what have you. So like, you know, how do you go about finding the right people to go into business with, and, you know, what makes a strong business partnership actually work?
Yep. So what I knew then to what I know now is very different. What I thought then was, do I think this person's good? I trust people pretty quickly. And so once I just thought I could trust this person, I think they would show up. I think they know what they're doing. I would just do it, and then I would just bring in someone else. Usually just with shared resources. So a lot of our businesses we started, it was just me and my brother already had these resources. We bring in a third person. So we just pull resources from another company and we start this company. What I know now is that when I look at those, like I love partnerships of 3. I've really enjoyed that aspect of like, and it doesn't have to be 3 equal partners, but I've always really enjoyed 3 partners. And you could use all types of analogies around why 3 is important. But ideally, I want a partner with resources. I want to partner with a domain authority, and I want to partner with talent. And so like fast forward, like once you get somebody that's truly an entrepreneur that can dabble in all of it, right? At that startup phase, if you're not buying something, Reid Hoffman's my favorite line for entrepreneurship. He said, you have to be dang good at pretty much all of it. Like, and if you're not, you got to develop some skills and understand it, right? I hate SOPs, I hate managing people, but I know what has to be done there, right? And I know who I have to hire or bring in to execute that. But he says entrepreneurship is like jumping off a cliff, and you have everything you need to assemble a plane, and you're falling in the air with it, and you've got to put that together before you hit the ground. And that's every time. Like every time we did one, it was that same scenario. There's only so much resources, and there's only so much, and around resources, that's people, that's money, and that's talent. And so like you got to have someone who knows how to put the plane together. You got to have someone who knows how to fly it, right? Because it doesn't matter if you put it together. If you don't know how to fly it, you're going to hit the ground again. So yeah, today I would say, is there enough between your partnership? Is there enough talent, resources, and domain authority? Like those are the 3 things. And that doesn't have to be 3 people. Sometimes you get right all 3 in one person. It's really rare. That's a unicorn, but you usually can find 2 of those things, or 1 thing in a person, and sometimes you can find 2. And so that's been the hardest part for me, is that I've never really had a lot of resources, because everything started with debt. I got a $20,000 loan for a carpet van, right? And then all I could pull was whatever that EBITDA the cleaning company was doing, and that's what funded the appliance store, right? And so we did this domino effect. Well, then when one company, your source, isn't doing as well, and you don't have that resource for the next venture, and you're like, okay, I'm not the resource guy now. Like maybe I can fit in the talent role. Can I find the domain authority, and then who's that resource, right? And so we've found ourselves, and I've made this mistake a couple times now, and it's always around the talent or resource part. Like we usually have a domain authority, but we've messed up on the talent and resource side a few times, and making sure there's enough of that for this thing to get legs and go.
Yeah. So what is it that you look for when you're looking at talent, and when you're looking at the resource part, and what's worked well, and what are things where it's like, hey, I'd do that differently or better next time?
Yeah. So if a talent, if it's not in the problem with talent is that talent leaves. And so if the talent doesn't have clear expectations, and it's not clearly defined what their involvement will be, say 5 years, right? I mean, what's is it 5 years? Is the 6, you pass that majority, or 6 years, you're past that, you're finally past like majority of businesses fail.
Yeah,
it's like, that's the swing, I think, at 5 years.
5 years.
So like that's kind of always the number. Okay, at 5 years, will the talent stay, and what will that look like, and clearly defining that? Because you don't have to expect them to always be in it, but at the very least, you probably want them at your quarterly board meetings, right? Or your partner meetings. You want to understand what their input is. You want to make sure they're going to be available if you have to have a cash call, right? Like, because talent runs, and I'm the most guilty of this. I'll be straight up. I'm the most guilty of not establishing what I'm going to do, and in 2 or 3 years, I'm somewhere else where I see an opportunity to use my talent to build something else, and then it's not clearly defined, and it also hurts the person that's in that position with the talent, because you're like, well, you're not going to pay me what I can get over here, right? And so it's not clearly defined what you're worth. The resources, clearly defining what that would look like and what is their fair share, because if they're not involved at all, is that partner willing to go to some certain extent that the other partners can't participate without diluting the other partners? Been in that situation a couple of times, and wish I would have defined that a little bit better. And it was always around the mark of we always assumed we need less than we did, right? Everybody does it. We always assume too low of a number.
Figure out what you need, and then add to it.
Exactly, multiply it.
But like, kind of going back to that, it's like you're always doing, but you're making the decisions based on the data you have at hand.
Yeah,
and I think so many times, like, because I'm like, as you're talking, I'm just reflecting on a lot of things happened in the past 3 to 4 years for me, and it's like we've made decisions that we thought at the time were the best decisions, and now we're looking back, I'm like, that was dumb, and now we're having to deal with it because there was debt involved, there's partners involved, There's all the different things involved, and you have to adapt. And I think that's the biggest piece, though, is what you talk about is like, you've done all these things, but you've had to adapt in the process of it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's making hard decisions, but you have to adapt to the process. It's not like being a serial entrepreneur, which, you know, I equate myself in that in some regard, but like you're not an employee. You can't just quit and say, oh, I'm just going to go get a job down the street. Like, no, you still have that responsibility because you have people that depend on you, partners that depend on you, and you have a bank that wants to get paid first in the process as well. And so it's like, there's just this, as an entrepreneur, I mean, there's so much more that is on top of you. We were talking about anxiety before, before we started this podcast. And I think that's just what, as an entrepreneur, you have to just know you're going to have it constantly, and you got to know how to work with it and how to deal with it and create that process for it. I kind of went long-winded on this one, but it's like, it's a realization I've had over the past 5 years of being a business owner. So,
I've never had anxiety. Never
You've never been a liar.
Professional
You should
help
write a
for
book.
Anxiety.
You've never been a liar either, but oh wait,
Yeah, that's it. It's good. Yeah. I'm curious about something, Samuel. So, I mean, you're a really creative guy, and I think that's one of the things that you bring to the businesses that you have is to be able to use your creativity. How do you manage that as a resource and optimize your, you know, the number of businesses that you work with, the role that you have in those businesses, the teams that you work with, so that you're able to maximize the, you know, the productivity and just the personal satisfaction of, you know, what you're able to do with your creativity?
Yeah. Mostly I do it bad. Mostly I don't know how to, I go hard and then I crash and then I reassess, and, you know, it's just like anything else. Like, oh, dang, I shouldn't have had 6 cups of coffee. Like tomorrow I'm only going to have 2. And you
Just
figure out what that happy balance is. Get a bigger cup. I love that. But yeah, it's a lot easier when you have partners or team members that value what that is and the toll it takes. And so clearly communicating that and finding partners that can appreciate that aspect, appreciate the toll, and appreciate that you go to bed and it's still there. Like it does not stop. You wake up, it's there. You're in the shower, it's there. If I step into it, and this is anybody that just really enjoys the process of growth and building, I think. And I would say, like, everyone, I get way more credit about being creative than I actually am. I've been really fortunate to surround myself with insanely talented people and find really talented people that can build awesome stuff. My creativity is probably about all the pieces that are there and finding an opportunity with those pieces. And so that could mean like getting into a new service, expanding a part of the business, figuring out a problem that's been there for 5 years. Last week, we for our online book business, this moment clicked. We've had this one thing that's been wrong for 5 years, and I tell you, you know how many times that's come into my head on the weekends, and it just gets in there again, and I'm like, it's gotta, and it just clicked. It finally, all the pieces came together last week, and I was able to go to my brother, who's the managing partner, Jesse, and we're talking. I'm like, can we do this? Like, why have we not done this? And he's like, oh yeah, we can. I'm like, call our software guy. Like, if we can do that, like, I think that's one of our core problems. And we've been doing this a long time. You know, and so it's those little pieces. And then how do you value that? And then now I don't really have anything to do there again, maybe for 3 months, right? Until the next thing comes up. And so that puts you in a position, if you can get people that appreciate that, you might have this one creative solution or problem solving in 3 months, but am I still valued when that thing goes on forever and I'm not included in that again, right?
Because
like,
a lot of people, you know, they measure value in terms of time.
Right, exactly.
Like the amount of, you know, the direct tangible resource that's consumed, and it's so hard to quantify that with creativity.
When you build something, I was discussing this because I had a disagreement with a partner about my value. And I've had, back to your question, so imagine you own your partner in 8 companies. You don't hold a position at any of those 8 companies. How do you pay yourself, right? Besides dividends. Like, what do you do with your time? Well, I'm going to do it anyway. And then I'll go build something for a company. It produces X or produces this opportunity. Like, how do you value that beyond being, they all have the same equity I do.
Right.
And that creates back to your core question, that's the hardest part for me is the burnout is not as hard in maintaining it if I get the value out of my value add, right? My personal value out of that value add. And that is like, I've talked to like some of my, Teddy Crewell and I talk about this all the time because it's probably one of my biggest core issues of not understanding what I do and not understanding how to communicate what I do. And more importantly, then it gets undervalued if it works and not having a clear stipulation of what that should look like going forward.
Right.
That's probably not what you asked. I kind of
but I mean, you bring up something that I think is so important. I mean, and this kind of ties into one of the things that you raised earlier is expectations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like when you have those clear expectations, like, hey, you know, I'm an idea person, right? And you know, what fuels the idea creation is my creativity, and that's something that is a incredibly nebulous thing, right? It's not something where I'm like, okay, you know what? Today from 3 to 4 p.m. I have creativity scheduled. I'm going to go into my special room. I'm going to flip the switch and how out comes all this creativity. But you have to, like what you said, you have people that appreciate it, that understand it, where you create those expectations, where you create systems that align with, hey, here is this sort of, indeterminate thing that I'm helping create, but here's the exchange that I get from that. My partners understand what their role is, what they're putting in, and what they get for it. And so that creates that transparency, that predictability that lets people optimize their outcomes. And you have the right teams together that know what to expect. Because, I mean, like we deal with this all the time in the legal world where, relationships start to deteriorate is often when people had misaligned expectations. And so often those weren't expressed. And it wasn't like, hey, they didn't have the conversation at the front of, hey, I'm doing this thing, but it's not something that's going to have real concrete parameters around it.
Right.
And so it's not going to have a lot of like, hey, did I meet it or not? It's like there's a little bit of trust in there. There's a little bit of, relational understanding and things. And there's other people that it's very quantifiable. It is like, are you the full-time manager? Yes, no. But
in those pieces, I was talking to Haley, like how do you when you start something with someone, I've done that enough times now to say, hey, my biggest value add is I enjoy seeing all the pieces come together. And so the temptation for me, and 14 is the evidence of that, is that's my favorite part, and it's where I am of most value. And the ongoing thing, how do I add value past a certain point, is really difficult. And I think that's why I tend to find myself in these other situations, because if the business can't support what I want to be, I'm going to build another business. Does that make that domino effect of, because if all that stuff isn't there and the partners aren't in alignment of where they want it to go, or they're not willing to do another location, or they're not, well, then you're boxed in and you're like, okay, that's all it's going to be. And I'm itching to do more.
Well, and so much of that I think comes to understanding what you're great at and what you bring to the table. And resisting the pressure, which I think is hard for all of us as entrepreneurs, is there's that, like you said, I mean, you described it from Reid Hoffman of like, hey, if you're going to start it, you got to be great at all these things, right? And resisting the urge to feel that pressure and that burden of, I must be great at everything. And instead figure out like, hey, if that's not my gifting, if my gifting isn't to like be great at everything, my gifting is to be amazing at creativity and then to build relationships with people that are great at the other things. And then define it that way and know that that's what success looks like. Is I've already defined it, and it is, I am the spark that lights the fire, that fuels the engine that really goes from here. But my role is I create all this value, and it's front loaded in ways that other people simply can't.
That's a good word for it.
And they don't create that value that's front loaded. They create value by sticking around, following through, being the SOB and doing all of that stuff. There's gonna be a shirt for that. You make the shirt for that.
I'll send it over. Sounds great.
But I mean, I think when we put ourselves in a position to have those clear expectations, we can limit the amount of burnout that we experience. And I mean, as leaders and entrepreneurs, that's where, I mean, I feel like I'm just now coming out of probably the last, 4 or 5 months of some level of creative burnout, where I've just noticed like, hey, the ideas aren't flowing as well as I'd like. They're just, there's just not as much in the tank, where I used to just be like, I'm just going to look in here and I'd, pop the lid off the creativity jar a little bit, and just like rainbows and butterflies and unicorns would just burst out. And it's like, you know what, there's a cobweb in there, you know, maybe some Skittles down there, probably some pocket lint, you know, there's just not a whole lot. And then it's just like, well, why even go back to that? And so, but
it's good.
Well, and you know, it's like, and thing is, so you're from 14 to 7, and there's probably a lot of stories in there of going from 14 to 7. So like, I mean, some of them are probably maybe successful exits, and maybe a question on that one is as you're entering into a brand or a product, I mean, do you have that idea of how do you want to exit it in there? Yeah. But then also, like, how do you handle failure when you know that, hey, we got to this place to where we just need to exit it, figure it out, you know, and everything, and just move on to the next thing? Because I think how people handle failure is a big definition on how they're going to be successful too at the same time. So, I mean, it's kind of a lot of questions in there, but like from 14 to 7, kind of talk through that.
Yeah, for sure. Those are mostly businesses that never got past, right, a few transactions or a pre-sale.
Yeah.
Or they didn't get off, you know, after 6 months. It was like, it's time to call it quits, right? Some of those were exits. Recently had an exit that was a loss. And it was a super painful transition. It got super complicated. There was a lot of partners, and I was at the genesis of the creation of the brand. And so that probably hurt the most for me, just because of that excitement around like building something, and then like part of your DNA's in there, right? When you come up with something. But it was the right move. It was the right thing for me. Where I was at with everything else, it was better to take a loss and cut my loss, move forward, and hope that thing still stands the test of time. And honestly, by me removing myself, hopefully that thing will become a real business, and I'm rooting for the remaining partners in it, that it will turn into something good someday. And then you have situations like Charlie's Appliance I sold. That came about. That was a business I did not want to sell, but my brother wanted to own, and came to me and said, "Hey, this is it for me. Like I want to zone in on this. I love this." And he's in a position where he's like putting himself where he can essentially go from 7 to 1, right? I don't actually know how many he's a part of total, but he's really simplifying, and he found his thing. And I've always thought in my mind, like, oh, hopefully that'll happen someday. I'll find that thing that's going to be right, the thing that I can just keep growing. I'll personally keep growing. And but that was a great example of a really safe business that is recession proof. I didn't have to worry about a lot of things because you have to buy appliances, right? But it was a perfect opportunity to say, man, I get to support where you want to be. I get paid out, and I have a story now. I built that company. We 10x the revenue from when we bought it. We bought it in 2016. The service company and the appliance store merged them. We 10x it, and I got to sell. I'm like, oh, that's great. Like that's a good. I don't have another one of those stories today. Like that's the first one I really have. I've always held on to everything, or it shuts down, or I close it, or I sell at a loss, right? So like I don't really have a great success story of like building something and getting a big payout. And this one isn't big, but it was good. It was like it felt good. It was right. There was it was an evaluation we both agreed on, and both parties agreed, and but put it all together, and it wasn't life-changing for either one of us, but it was for him because now it's his thing. He's focused, zoned in, and it's going to be better. Like I'm super excited for that business to go forward now with someone that's all in on it, right? So that's kind of the goal with all these partners, and that genesis of a lot of these partnerships were, how do I get Dave Shaw to build a really amazing business and have something worth something today? And Shaw's Pest has done really well. How do I get Charlie Green, who we actually partnered with Charlie's? We bought him out 3 years ago. And that was a great story. That was the guy I had the lunch with. He said, I'll have no blue sky. My brother and I bought him out 3 years ago. And he retired. And I'm like, that stuff's cool. Those are like the little wins in there that are really fulfilling.
Well, and I mean, you're learning a ton. I mean, because you're like, what, 26 now? And
34. I'm 35 sounds old, by the way. Like it just feels like you're turning the.
Good thing I'm only 34.
I turned 37. I'll say my real age.
It just feels like you're like, oh, 40, like 35, then 40's next.
But I mean, all of that learning, I mean, man, that's already creating a ton of value for you. And I mean, there's so many opportunities that you've got going on, and and that you'll continue to work on. Where that learning asset, I think that's where some people, they burn out and they give up too soon, and they don't put themselves in a position to, benefit from that learning asset and then leverage it into, hey, here's how this makes this next thing even better. And sometimes it's a math game.
Yeah.
I mean, like not everything is gonna work.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of businesses that start fail. I mean, a lot of businesses that are acquired, it doesn't quite work out the way people want. And some of it's, in some sense, it's the same principle as sales.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to close every single deal.
You got to be good with rejection and failure. Sales is about the best way to learn failure.
Yeah, but you learn so much.
Yeah.
Like you start listening to, like, hey, here's how, this particular piece of the market functions and how I apply that to create value. And I mean, that's, So I'm excited for where you're at on your journey and where you're going. And
appreciate that.
I mean, it sounds like you've just learned a ton that's working really hard for you, and I appreciate you sharing it with our listeners.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I want to kind of touch on a little bit more, kind of last thing is you have a new company, Killer Growth, that you recently branded, and then you've also recently purchased a bounce house brand, and kind of using Killer Growth in a way to rebrand those sort of things, but kind of talk about how you are looking at AI, creative marketing, automation, and how you are applying that to not only your own businesses but also other businesses as well.
Yeah, that's talk about getting really zoned in on something. I'm, as far as time management goes, I'm 40 hours a week with Killer Growth, and then we have Voice Grid AI as a part of that as well.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of fun. That's just it applies to the marketing side, and then I kind of spend. My goal is to spend 1 day a week, so I basically do 40 in 4 days is the goal, right? Kind of schedule it out like that, and then I spend 1 day a week sectioning off an hour or two working on my investments, and so under that construct, what it's done by developing and building Killer Growth with a killer team, if I might add. It's put me in a position now to build out technology that not only works on my companies, but then puts me in a position to build publicly and say, I bought this bouncy house company and watch what's going to happen, right? And I'm not going to say I'm going to get rich off a bouncy house rental company, but I'm saying I'm going to show you guys what modern day technology and creative marketing and AI can do for this business. And so to be really specific, how we're doing this is that I take a bouncy house company that was, and the reason we bought this, and we bought this company in 8 hours. It listed on Facebook, and we had an agreement in 8 hours after. That's how quick we moved on it, because it was just a
new record, folks.
Right? Yeah. And it wasn't not a big purchase. It was an asset purchase only. So we purchased the asset. We take them a check 2 weeks later. And this is why. And I'll circle back to kind of your core question. But this company did not have an easy way to work with as far as booking, right? Contacting them. Yeah. Owner operator. So who knows when he's going to answer the phone and when he calls you back, right? The website was not transactional, not super clear. The branding overall on the website felt kind of like that scary clown feel, right? Yeah. So that's always a big metric that I get really excited about. I'm like, oh, when I go to this website, I don't feel good. I see this and I'm like, there's a scary clown behind this website.
It's like Joyland
scary
or something
clowns
like that.
On Killer. Is Killer Growth have a scary clown mascot? Does Killer Growth, your business, does it have a scary clown mascot?
No, it does not. But I don't know where you're going with this.
No, I was just curious. I mean, I was going to ask you, Killer Growth, do you grow killers? Or
sorry. Okay, I'm with you now. Yeah.
No.
So
full disclosure, he does not.
Right.
No clowns were ever affiliated with the production of this episode. Yeah. Also, if you are a person who identifies as a clown, that's great. But anyway, we might cut that out. I don't know.
That's all right.
That's what the killer clown.
All right, going on to
the killer clown said.
So those metrics, right? So you got outdated, no support staff.
Yep.
Branding just made me feel yucky, and that's always a good sign to me because I know what I can do with that. And then we look at the opportunity margin time against revenue, and so I saw an EBIT opportunity, and that's what I'm really zoned in on right now. If I'm gonna do another first base, second base hit, I want to see 20% opportunity.
Yeah.
That is that, right? And I think I can hit 20% because of technology. Like in other situations, maybe they couldn't.
Yeah.
So I see that all fits right, and then I look at the competition, and none of them have a great experience online in the whole region. I'm like, Great. All right. Bar set low. And then the last piece that's always the most important to me, they have a great reputation. Everybody loved them. They did great work, created great customer experience when they did their service.
Yeah,
after they were hired, they showed up. Everybody loved
It's just
them.
the process to getting hired.
Right,
that you have to
and
refine
a lack
that.
of efficiencies, and you call them and they read out the list, and they got to look at a calendar, decide which float's available or inflatables available, right? So you look at all these processes, but we don't have to change the name. On the SEO side, they dominate our El Dorado area, dominate it. So I'm like, okay, that's low hanging fruit. They have already reoccurring clients, right? There's a client base, and we can buy this at the asset level. So it's like, okay, and then here's what we do with it. So then we take it, rebrand. We have a fully transactional website. Launched it 3 days later, had 2 bookings on the same day, right? That booked out for March and April. And then I just checked today and there's 7 other bookings already.
Oh, that's
and we're
cool,
not talking to anybody.
Yeah,
like
just
people are
purely
just
for
booking.
just-
and they're
yeah.
popping up on the
Yeah.
calendars, one in Douglas, one in Eureka,
Dude, that's
and
awesome.
they're selecting the delivery dates. Then we're implementing AI. So the automation part of that is going to be the CRM, integrated with the CRM, and specifically with VoiceGrid. We will be the only bounce house company that answers the phone 24/7. We will never not answer the phone. And this AI representative will be able to schedule appointments and send an invoice. So think
Cool,
through that
man.
logistics, right?
Is it
So
Sam's voice
now,
there today?
right? That's what we should do.
No.
Hey,
So
I'll
back
pay
to
your
they
royalty.
want
You
an
have a great
inviting
voice.
experience that people will enjoy and not
Right.
feel like
Yeah.
yeah.
So in that process, we'll
Yeah.
do that, and then we'll tell the story of what we did digitally to get the traffic up, right? So we're implementing local SEO strategies, things that we know work and that we do well at Killer Growth. Now we can build it out on there. Killer Growth gains a client, and then Killer Growth gains popularity in our portfolio, right? Like we can build out a case study now publicly with everybody and say like,
Dude,
this
awesome.
really works. Like, and I so believe in our abilities now, and like my 13 years of experience of building service companies. Like I really want to help service companies. Like there's so much they can do. And I am so, I'm, if you haven't seen my LinkedIn post lately, like I'm really fired up right now about it. And my goal is to be the truth teller. I want to be the truth teller in the service industry when it comes to digital marketing and technology, because I think there's so many religious-based organizations. And when I say religious, they're religious on the service they provide. And that's not how it works anymore. Depending on your competition and what's going on in your market, you maybe shouldn't be putting money on Meta because everyone is, but nobody's doing this platform well. So we're always looking for the low-hanging fruit opportunity because resources are limited with service companies.
Yeah, I mean,
so we've got to find the stuff that gets wins, doesn't get clicks, it gets calls.
Because most time, like you Google it, like say garage, say your garage door is broken or whatever. You want it fixed because you gotta get your garage door up and down. And we face this. And like I Googled it, and it was the one that I could book the easiest with. I was able to book online. I didn't have to call anybody to try to get a hold of somebody. I went online, booked it, clicked it, done, and they were there within 4 hours to get it taken care of, and it was done. But it's like it made the process was simple to be able to do it, and because that's when people want something, they want it now, need it now or whatever.
No, that's great. Well, Samuel, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate you sharing from your experiences and what you've learned, and man, keep after it, keep up the great work, and thanks for sharing with our audience. We're really passionate here on this podcast about helping people grow successful businesses and having great transitions, because we know that when people do that, great things happen at the community level, and we really want to be a part of helping people build thriving local communities. So thank you all for joining us, and we will, and please tune in next time. Same bat channel, same bat time. Thank you for joining us today. For future episodes, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and please check out our website at www.goforemanlaw.com/learning.